That's why soap operas are so popular. In Middle Ages in the UK, people used to go and watch people get killed for stuff. Women, children, everyone, like, roll up, watch this guy who stole some bread to feed his family get hung by his eye sockets or whatever. And everyone was like, ooh, I'll have a bit of that. What's happening today? Oh, Ron's getting hung up by his testicles. Awesome, let's go and check that out.
I'll bring the kids along.
They'll love it. Yeah, we'll have some like rat tails for whatever. Anyway, but you see what I mean. We're living in a paradox. Never before have so many people had platforms to speak, yet never have the boundaries of acceptable speech been more contested. From college campuses to corporate boardrooms to the digital town square, the battle over who can say what has become one of the defining conflicts of our time, and something me and Adam run into regularly. Ask us about our YouTube performance after a certain video recently. Welcome to Temporally Scripted. I'm Jack Austin with Adam Garcia as usual, and today we're diving into the future of free speech, exploring the tension between expression and responsibility in an era when a single tweet can launch both movements and mobs. We're going to unpack the nuanced reality behind cancel culture, examine the unprecedented power of tech platforms as modern speech gatekeepers, and wrestle with fundamental questions. When does accountability become silencing? Who should decide the boundaries of acceptable discourse? And how do we balance free expression with the real harm certain speech can cause? We'll look beyond the partisan talking points to find a more thoughtful path forward and share a story or two as we go. So, Adam, ever been cancelled?
Not so far. No, I don't think so. Something weird did happen on our channel when all of a sudden the views went really low, like you were saying, after talking about certain topics.
Which is impressive, because how much lower can you go from 12 views?
You think like 10 views is low? No, we can give you one. And that's one of our second accounts.
Yeah, so go on. Sorry, I interrupted you there mid-flow.
Well, it's part of life. So, yeah, I don't know if that was the reason for sure, but it just seems strange. It was like, and it obviously that's not cancellation. We haven't been kicked off YouTube yet, but it's like, yeah, it seems strange, but that's the closest I've come to being cancelled.
And probably not kicked off because it's our reach that's not an issue, right? Our current reach, they're like, well, they've got a reach of about 100, 200. Yeah, damn. That only works on.
Yeah, don't. Sadly, we just have nobody watching.
That's the problem with our X, clearly. Yeah, we've got millions of followers on X. They just don't choose to click the word follow. I had a recent semi-cancellation issue on Facebook, and it's one of the reasons I changed my business platform to focusing on LinkedIn. And also, the good folks at Meta, because I have a fair following and I have a business, I get people trying to clone my account. Ironically, when I first started out as a coach, somebody cloned my Facebook account and they made more money in that January than I did.
No way. Maybe they should be coaching you. What are they doing different?
Yeah, so when I was first starting out as a coach, they were scamming people on local SEO contracts for like $500. And somebody reached out to me and told me, hey, there's this profile that's got your name and stuff on it. And they scammed my auntie out of $700 or whatever. And it turned out there was quite a few of them. So he was actually with a fake account, made about $4,000 that January. And my new business didn't make that amount in that month. So he was outdoing me. But the reason that it's funny is it happened again last week. It's almost like a reminder for this episode. Thank you very much. So somebody else cloned me. They used my podcast image, which ironically is an AI generated image. But anyway, So they found our podcast page and all of this stuff so they've done their research on me. And I reported the profile to Facebook in the same way that I did when this person had been scamming people. And Facebook told me it wasn't against their community standards and they'd not seen anything that was wrong about this.
Because it's such a such a stark contrast between someone's copied your profile, copied you, impersonated you, is trying to scam people out of money. You, on the other hand, make a joke and you get banned from doing certain things on Facebook.
Yeah.
Which you weren't going to be profiting. You weren't actually doing harm, where somebody else genuinely is basically stealing people's money by somebody else.
But that is not against the standards on Meta, but people impersonating other people is not. And the other thing that's funny is I've tried to create second Facebook accounts of myself before so that I can target a different niche, right? So, the followers you have, the people on your profile, they see your content. So if you're trying to market a service, you don't really want your friends, your family, your mum, like whatever on there. You want a specific Facebook for that purpose. And it's nigh on impossible. So I don't know how these people manage it. I really don't.
Yeah, it's mad. There must be some crazy loophole, some kind of way around it. So, I mean, Facebook didn't have a problem with someone copying you. If someone copied Mark Zuckerberg or someone high up in Facebook, do you think they'd have the same approach?
Yeah, I think they'd probably be a little bit faster to deal with that and to clear that person out. They're also not very forthcoming with giving you a blue tick these days because they want you to pay for it, even though they probably were against and marketing against what X were doing when they just said, hey, you have to pay for a blue tick. Facebook were like, no, if you're notable, like in a sort of sniff your own farts Wikipedia way.
If you're notable, which isn't really quantifiable, that can mean literally anything. Or we can just decide either way.
Yeah, exactly. Notable in the eyes of Derek, who's like a massively overweight, sweaty 55-year-old man who's got time to moderate Wikipedia all day.
Sounds like you might like our podcast.
I wonder if he would consider us notable.
Yeah, who knows? I would imagine one thing about it is there's probably something that we're not told with Facebook that's in the underlying sort of architecture where it lets people get away with certain things because it's all engagement. They just want, as long as people are using that site, even if some people are using it for not so good things, like they've copied someone's account, whatever, people are still interacting with Facebook and they're on there and they're showing them ads, whatever, as they scroll through. And I think there's part of it would be that as a reason why they're not too swift in dealing with these things. Or sometimes they just let things fly.
And also, they probably would have let that fly, my comment, for example, if it had have started getting hundreds and hundreds of likes or people arguing with me or saying, how dare you talk about drugs on here? My son had a habit, but he was fine on AppSumo. Like, whatever.
AppSumo changed his life.
Yeah.
Rescued him from the perils of drug abuse.
Yeah. We had a choice between an AppSumo and we went for AppSumo and it saved us. It didn't save us any money. His productivity's gone to shit, but he never stops testing new apps. But yeah, so they would have left it for longer because they like controversy and they like things that go viral, and usually there is controversy behind these things. So they also, I mean, a lot of it is because they're lazy and it's machine based and they don't want to employ anybody. So I know quite a few people who are owners of big Facebook groups, like 100,000, 200,000, even up into the millions of Facebook users. And quite often they'll get banned for replying to all of the comments of the people in their communities because Facebook will go, oh, you're replying to too many comments, you must be a bot. You're on a shadow ban.
Yeah. Which you'd think there'd just be something in place for that, because there will be a lot of people who have huge followings that have certain groups or whatever.
So there's a huge issue with that. Sometimes even if you're reporting too many things as spam or as offensive in your group, but they also punish you if somebody posts in your group something offensive. Like they can threaten you with closing your group down. They can threaten you with like bans, with taking away your monetization, with all of this other stuff. So if you get some mad freak who comes in and mentions Speedo without an S, then you can get shut down. And it's crazy because they're really, the stat that comes up is right. It's $36 billion was digital ad spend like back in 2008, and now it's like $567 billion. So all of these platforms care about is their advertising revenue, and their advertising revenue, they want people to look like they're on the platform. They don't give a crap if you're actually on there or not, which I also think is the reason it's very hard to get them to close down these accounts straight away, because it's another number. It's another person that's a user. So when they're talking to ad companies about what they have to pay, it's like, oh, well, we've got X billion users.
Yeah, I remember something like that coming out when Elon Musk took over Twitter. And I can't remember the stats, but it was something like just outrageous of the amount of accounts that he said were just fake, bots, whatever. And I'm sure it was around 40% or something, but I can't remember exactly. But
that rings a bell.
It's much the same with Facebook. They're happy to say, okay, we have so many billion users, whatever. So if you advertise with us, you got to pay this much money because our reach is so massive. Yeah, definitely. People used to set up accounts for different projects they were working on and things like that, or different musical projects, all kinds of things. But instead of doing it as a page, they'd set it up as a person.
Yeah, this is it. So there's all of that going on, and they don't really seem to care about what these kinds of people say. And I mean, back to what can be said and what can't be said. Do you feel like there's almost an agenda or a bias behind what sort of things are banned and what sort of things are allowed on social media?
It seemed like there was always more of a reach for things on the left. But then you notice just after Trump got in a few months ago, Mark Zuckerberg does this thing and he's like, oh, well, here at Facebook, we've always been on the side of freedom of speech. And it's like, no, you haven't. What the hell?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, he comes across now, and I think he's deliberately placing himself as like this, almost like a philanthropist, right? He's positioning himself, even the way he looks, the suntan, like the kind of new vibe, the curly sort of surfer style haircut. I saw a video the other day of a house where they built the new metadata center next door to this house, and they've just ruined these poor people's lives. Like that, it's literally, you see the inside of their house at nighttime when they don't even need any lights on, because the light from the data center is like so
shines
powerful.
through the walls.
Literally, the whole house is just bright light inside. They've got no water pressure. All their water has sediment in it. They have to like save water in buckets so they can flush their toilets. Like, you name it, the level of the noise, everything, like the power. They don't get any power because instead of Facebook building their own power grid, they're just using the national grid, which there's no excuse for. And there's all these things that they do. And if you post about any of that stuff, I'm sure you will get cancelled. And I know it's probably fairer now because X is very much leaning the other way. But I also don't know if X moderate left stuff. It's just that there's not as much left stuff on there. I couldn't answer that question. But yeah, it's one of those things where it seems like if you say anything that's anti-establishment at that particular time, you have a higher chance of getting cancelled. I think, yeah, there's definitely a lot of agenda behind this.
Would you want complete freedom of speech platforms? Because it's like, might be okay I don't think I would say anything particularly bad or put any particular views forward, but there might be some people that might say some really terrible stuff that could be really anti certain groups of people. They might be inciting people to violence, all kinds of things. And then where do you draw the line between, is it just a few bad words? Is it hate speech? Is it incitement to violence? Where do we draw the lines with all these things? Or where should they be drawn? Should they be drawn at all?
That's the challenge, right? Because you've got two issues as I see it. It's the really, really stupid people, or even just the sort of general low level IQ people. I'm looking at you, 100 and less. And also the really, really high IQ people, right? And this is the issue in two ways. So let me start with the stupid people first, or the low IQ people, or however you want to measure. Really impressionable, likely have views that are like, they take our jobs, you took our jobs, right? They're like this kind of people are going to just get on a belief and post about it nonstop. And I see some people on my Facebook that I went to primary school with that are always posting nonsense, some of which is true, some of which is just totally racist, out of order ridiculousness, like, oh, immigrants, they took our jobs. It's like the government took your jobs. But then there's also the opportunity for the smart people to understand that they can manipulate the stupid people and take advantage of it that way, as like a mass megaphone into everybody's house in a 1984 style way that's way beyond TV and could even be hidden as though it's someone that is your peer. John Scrope from Essex posted this, and actually it's somebody with a much, much higher intelligence and manipulation posting it to start inciting a hatred. And that happens a lot. And I think it's used as a weapon. But I'm sure there are companies you can hire to do these things for you.
Yeah, I would think there will be. Because if you can think of a way to do it, and you can think of a market for it, then it will probably exist.
It's interesting. I think we mentioned this like a couple of episodes, and I'm not just saying that because I live here. Like the news here in Vietnam is actually much more palatable because there's no opinions in it. It just tells you, right, today this happened, these people were in attendance, this is the plan going forward, and this is exactly what happened. And it's really factual.
I noticed that. I couldn't understand it, but had subtitles on for a little while, but didn't work so great on YouTube. I mean, it's all like, I watched and it was just like really straight faced, really like matter of fact. And it's just like this really, like you say, this happened. We think this is going to happen next. That's been the news. Good night.
There's no manipulation. There's no tactic behind it. It's like an update.
Could well been, I guess, scripted from beforehand to say how it's going to be. I don't know if some things are left out or some things were exaggerated, but it's a world apart from the kind of Western news where it's like half soap, half news. There's some like ham acting going on.
What news flavored entertainment, I think, is the phrase, which is that's the second t-shirt. If you want any of these t-shirts, we can get them printed cheap and charge you high prices for them. So for $5, we can get them printed. For $100, it can be in your home and on your back. I mean, it does slightly move us off that topic, but yeah, I think there is definitely dangers to both sides, and it's not an easy thing to moderate. So in my opinion, don't moderate it. Just let it go. And if that incites people to go and commit violence, then the police deal with that. And these people go through the justice systems to be re-educated or imprisoned or whatever is needed based on the actions they take. It's like you're almost, by taking some of the responsibility away from people, it's like, well, so what have you done today, Dave? Yeah, well, smashed a few shop windows, nicked a few pairs of Nike Air Max trainers. Yeah, I saw this Muslim at the end of the road, so I smacked him like whatever. But it was because I saw this post on Facebook. It's sorry, mate, you're going to prison.
Then you probably
And
got some bigger problems than.
yeah,
It's
you're
like
going
that
to
with
be 8 years in jail because of your actions as a grown up, right? It's like there's no, oh, well, I saw it on the internet, so I thought it was okay to just go and smash the granny out of someone because of where they're from or their culture. It's like, no.
Yeah, it's like that thing at school when some kid does something wrong, gets in trouble with a teacher and goes like, oh, why did you do it? Oh, Jamie told me to do it. It's like, well, if Jamie told you to jump off a cliff, would you? No, but like you go through when you're like really, oh, someone on Facebook said that this and this, so I went out and smacked some people. It's like, then you made a mistake. You're going to get punished for it. And you kind of not right in the head for listening to people like that.
Yeah, and then the justice system of whatever country it is can create laws around. You get an an ASBO, a Facebook ASBO, for example. Like you're not allowed to go on digital stuff for 6 months until we. And I mean, there is still an opportunity for that to be manipulated, of course, because as we know, the justice systems in countries are already, created to be in a way that serves certain people and not others.
Well, I mean, what's happening in the UK at the moment is just insane. Where there's people being arrested and sent to prison for things they posted on Facebook. And, it's not really horrific stuff. It's from the instances I saw, and I can't remember them exactly, but it wasn't like true incitement to violence. It wasn't really sort of heinous things. It was like, yeah, bad taste, bad hearted, all that kind of thing. But then people actually going to prison for it. Whereas at the same time, you've had like protests throughout the UK for months and months of people at the pro-Palestine rallies saying, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, which essentially means getting rid of all the Jews in between the river and the sea. So it's all right to call for the genocide of one race in one country, but you say if that's absolutely fine, do it every weekend. The police and the government will protect your right to do it. You say a couple of bad things on Facebook, and it's like, oh right, sorry, that's 2 years in prison. I know a lot of that came out of the Southport riots, and perhaps they had to do something. But when you're talking like over a year for something someone put on Facebook, and tensions were really high at that time, and some of that there was some misinformation going round and things like that as well. But it was quite a horrific thing that had happened, and there was other tensions going on. But I don't know. It just seems really just imbalanced.
It's like, how else would you manage certain things? But then where do you draw the line? And I think as much as I used to be someone who believed that you should really just, and I still believe, but it's kind of a utopian view of like things in the world. You let people live as much as possible and you let people be able to do whatever they see fit until it comes to a point where it starts to what's the word, encroach on somebody else's enjoyment and fulfillment of existence. Now, I'm not bringing into that feelings. Like if you hurt somebody's feelings, that's their own problem. I've been looking into something recently, which is an episode for another time. But look into something called Adler philosophy. There's a guy called Adler,
Okay.
and it's kind of psychology and philosophy, but he basically says that every problem and everything that is going on in everyone's life is actually an interpersonal problem. And nothing is related to like your background, your history, and all of that stuff, right? It's so basically going in the face of Freud and everything that he said. It's more like, well, if you were the only person on the planet, none of this shit would actually matter. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because I feel like that's almost the world where people should live. It's like if I'm not bothering you and you're not bothering me, like physically being, affecting your quality of life, then we just leave each other be and we do whatever we want to do behind our own closed doors. Do you see what I mean? And I can't remember which comedian it is. I think it's Ricky Gervais, where he's like, hurting your feelings. Feelings are subjective. Like, you can't say that, you know, if you said to me that I'm not the prettiest bald man in Da Nang, that might hurt my feelings. But I shouldn't be able to get you cancelled. And obviously, I am the prettiest bald man in Da Nang, so it doesn't matter.
So you just go, oh, it's fine. Anyway, this person is clearly an idiot.
Whatever. What does Adam know? Right? He could only dream of being the prettiest bald man in Da Nang. But you see my point? Joking aside, it's like, feelings is not something that should be a concern of governments, but let alone of social media companies and people that are trying to have some sort of control over the narrative under the guise of protection and safety.
Yeah, and I can't remember who it was. It might have been, I want to say Stephen Fry or maybe even John Cleese. I'm not sure, but some famous comedian was like, man, people will say, oh, I'm offended. So, oh, are you? What happens when you're offended? Does your head fall off? Does your heart stop working? Nothing happens. You know, it's like you just feel a little bit bad, very briefly, and then it goes. When you've been offended by some joke or even like something as you've been scrolling through and you see something bad, you go, oh, it's not very nice. Oh, well, I'll scroll on, and then it's gone. It's like people have decided to really like jump onto this fear and just hold on to it and just go, oh, I'm offended. This is the worst thing ever. And just hold on to that and amplify it and things like that. And people go, oh, well, you know, words are violence. It's like, no, you can call me a name and I'll be a little bit upset. If you hit me in the face, I'll be much more upset and it'll hurt a lot more. You know, it's
I mean, tell that to a soldier in the American War or in World War II or in any of the, or anyone in like 150 years ago, that words are a weapon. You're having a laugh, basically. And I think things have never been easier for people either, and that's part of the issue. It's like that is definitely an episode for another day. And we did something similar, I know, before, but like, things have never been easier than they are right now. There has never been a time in history where it's easier. We might be just over a peak and it's going in a bit of a trough, but the 80s were sucky as well for people. There was a lot of hardship and people forget quickly the cycles of things. And then we went into the biggest era of growth and money that was ever there, probably as a result of the hardship that was then set in the 80s and the saving and whatever, because then that creates this boom afterwards. That's just how things work. And I feel like, yeah, the whole I'm offended thing, you know, and part of it, like you just said, is look away. One, you choose your feeling. You choose a feeling so that you can react in a certain way. Interesting. That's another Adler thing. It's like you choose anger so you can shout at someone. It's not you're angry so you shout at someone. It's like you choose to be angry so that you can justify your action.
It's like you were looking, almost searching for someone to shout at or for some reason to be enraged, and then you end up looking for it.
Like, why in my 20s did I always used to end up in fights in pubs and bars and whatever, any other kind of drinking establishment? It's because, not I'd just be looking for it, but in a sense I was, because being bullied as a teenager, there's this whole like chip on your shoulder, this kind of thing, various things I've dug back into. And it's like, well, because you're waiting for someone to show you that disrespect so you can react. Do you know what I mean? You've kind of created this persona and this thing of, well, people always give me shit because of this. And then I always react like that. Do you know what I mean?
It's like, and it had happened many times in the past. So it's not like if you're going out thinking, oh, well, definitely nothing will happen tonight. There won't be any violence or anything like that.
And then there's the other part of it is like, you can remove yourself from things you don't like or you don't want to be part of or you don't want to read. So you choose to be involved and incited by this violence, right? Like you choose that. And a story that I get from that, as much as I don't really like the dude anymore, I think it was Frankie Boyle who made a joke about the speaking clock guy in the UK. I was like, oh, did you hear the speaking clock guy in the UK died? He died on the third stroke. Because he goes on the third stroke, the time will be, the time sponsored by Accurist will be 7:37. Boop, boop, boop. Believe it or not, we're old enough where you used to phone a number to find out what the time was,
Yeah,
ladies
I
and
remember
gentlemen.
calling the talking clock a few times. Really.
Crack. Yeah, exactly. We lived in a time where you had to phone a number to see what time it was. But anyway, my point is, he got the next day after the show where he'd said this. I might be wrong. It might be another comedian. He got a phone call from the Sun or whatever, and they were like, "Hey, we need a statement from you about the joke you told yesterday about the speaking clock guy." He's like, "All right, okay, why?" It's like, "Well, we told his family about that joke you made about him dying of a stroke, and he did die of a stroke. So what's your comment on how his family feel now you made a joke about him?" And he's like, "But you told him the joke. I didn't tell him the joke." He's like, "You told." He's
Why'd
like,
you tell him, you cruel bastards?
yeah, they weren't in the audience.
Well, hopefully not.
Come on. So I think that's like an insight into this whole cancel culture, because people just, you need to take responsibility for what you watch and what you say and how you react, and that's just being a person.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different levels to it as well, and the thing with like canceling people or just shutting things down, if you had true freedom of speech, whether it was on social media, anything really, it would just be like in society where, say, you live in a town or a city, there might be a few thousand, million people. There's some people in that place that say stupid things and are absolute arseholes. No one wants to hang around with them and no one listens to them. And it's kind of the same on social media. It's like if someone is there spouting something that's like just horrible, racist stuff, whatever it may be, no one's really going to be listening. There will be other people that think the same thing as this person, and they might get together and be friends and things like that. But it's like, I don't think it's necessarily changing people's minds. People would just naturally go, yeah, I don't want to see that.
Yeah, and move away from it and
Yeah,
take
and just ignore it.
responsibility. I think it's
Hopefully.
just an excuse for people's emotions. Taking, oh, well, I had that emotion because I followed this thing on Facebook. It's like, well, no, you didn't. You made the decision. You saw that as an excuse and a way of allowing the behavior that you know is wrong to continue. And you just was like, ah, fuck it, I'm just going to do it anyway. And then it's one of these platforms problems. And that for me is the real issue.
So it's all right.
So now I've just put you on the spot and made it super awkward for you. No, let's just sit
Highly
here in
professional.
silence until you remember. But what I was going to say was, have we ever had free speech?
Probably not, because from what I was looking at before we did this show, even back in like ancient Greece, they would have a way where they would vote to ostracize people from the community if they'd done something wrong or said the wrong thing. So I guess we've always had it, really.
Is it almost that it's like a human nature thing to have a consensus, and you fall out of that consensus, somebody's going to try and control that? And it might even be if somebody has a more creative or interesting idea, there's like a, oh man, that's good, I don't like that, that's too far out of my comfort zone, we need to shut this down. Like, I can't imagine you were walking down the street and you're like, that Tutankhamun's all right for dick, isn't he? You're going to get executed, aren't you? Like in ancient Egypt or whatever.
Probably. I don't know much
Genghis
about.
Khan's a proper prick, isn't he? Why do we all follow this dickhead? He never saves any of the women for us. All the raping and pillaging's been done by the time we get there. He's a machine.
There's nothing for us to do. It's terrible.
This is terrible. Yeah, I don't think he was just going, it's all right, mate. You're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's been all kinds of just terrible kind of leaders in history, or whether it's Vlad the Impaler or whatever else, it's like there's been plenty of like horrific stuff in the past. Maybe it's since language came along, there hasn't really been free speech. Before that, people didn't talk, and so everyone got along more or less.
This is it. It's like even when you had Socrates speaking and Plato like noting what he was saying and publicizing it and stuff, it was all about talking, and it was all about converse and people exploring ideas and coming to conclusions. But I bet there were still people who was like, wait, hold on, I want to say mine. And people are like, no, you're not Socrates, mate. Whoa. Socrates is talking. There's going to be like, he would have been in with the right people to even be in that position in the first place. And therefore, the things that he said and believed would have been palatable to whoever was needed to be palatable for.
And I guess also you think things, especially like in science, generally you'd have some genius that is some kind of like fringe character that it's like has some wacky idea that nobody believes because that's impossible, that the earth could revolve around the sun or something like that. And it's like, okay, well, put him to death or whatever. But it's usually the people on the fringes with the outliers with wacky ideas that actually make the developments. Maybe sometimes the same is true in societies. And hence when you get revolutions and various things like that.
Or if you were a woman with an opinion before 1950.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty rough time.
Burn her! Well, maybe not 1949, but So, yeah, I think it's a human problem and it's a control problem. And I guess what we're seeing now is a shift in the power of who controls that, what can be said and what can't be said. Because instead of it being governments, police, whatever else, it's, social media.
Exactly. Do you want the power in the hands of the government? Do you want the power in the hands of Silicon Valley billionaires? In the future, as AI and various things grow, they're going to be able to identify more from your social media activity and pretty much know how you're thinking from how you interact with social media, how you interact with the internet, everything else. Then might come to a point where your thinking doesn't fit in with society, or it doesn't fit in with what we want. You could have a social credit score or something like that, like you have in China. And it's like, okay, well, you seem to think this way. You're not allowed to get on the train, or you're not allowed to buy a house. Some of the stuff in China seems insane.
Yeah, and I think part of it is because they know that people are so addicted to being on there and like seeing all of this banter, fights, arguments, drama, because humans are addicted to drama. That's why soap operas are so popular. In Middle Ages in the UK, people used to go and watch people get killed for stuff. Women, children, everyone, like, roll up, watch this guy who stole some bread to feed his family get hung by his eye sockets or whatever. And everyone was like, ooh, I'll have a bit of that. What's happening today? Oh, Ron's getting hung up by his testicles. Awesome, let's go and check that out. And
I'll bring the kids along.
They'll love it. Yeah, we'll have some like rat tails for whatever. Anyway, but you see what I mean? It's like part of humans like drama and they get kind of attracted to drama. And I think now that place where we see it has just changed, and people like a good hanging as well. And that hanging is now a social media hanging of someone who built like a reputation, a following, spent hundreds of hours on their YouTube or their Facebook or whatever, building this audience to be dragged back down by mediocrity, and mediocrity likes company, doesn't it? So it's one of those things where anyone that stands out from that in any way is going to get dragged back in.
Yeah, and the media absolutely loves it. So there'll be some scandal about someone, some celebrity or YouTuber or whatever, and then it's like, oh, this has happened, have some headlines, and then different people start coming out of the woodwork telling different stories. Some of them are true, some of them are completely false, and it's just people wanting fame or like hoping to get some money out of it, and it becomes this big spectacle that everyone watches. Fill in the blank, generic celebrity. People love it, can't get enough.
Yeah, this is it. So
then after that scandal, we'll move on to another scandal.
Yeah, so there's part of it that's done itself and done in its own way. And I do think we're at an interesting part of history in terms of the Western world, particularly. And I think some of that is why there's this control, even harder control of like free speech and what people can say. In the UK, people getting jailed because of their views on Facebook or whatever, because the establishment is fairly terrified. Like, we've pretty much been in this two-party system in most countries, particularly in the UK, for the best part of 150 years, maybe longer, right? My memory doesn't go back any further than that. But we're now in a very real situation where other parties are coming through and things are being split and powers changing. You can see a world now where one of the two main parties might not get elected in the UK and in other European countries in the next 4 years. I think part of that is then we need to centralize. We need to bring everyone back to this middle ground. We need to really stamp out any extremities on either side of things. I believe that's a driving factor because obviously all of these social media companies are about money and attention, and that requires them to be allowed to operate in countries.
Yeah, and it's that thing with any of these social media companies, it is all just about money. It's all about profit. As often happens in businesses, you have the company, they have the sort of fiduciary duty to the shareholders to make money. That's all they have to do. And it's like at any cost. And you can see all over the world, whether it's like wrecking parts of the environment, other forms of pollution, basically using slave labor to make various products. Capitalism is like that, where it'll just go and it doesn't care of the consequences. And that's the tricky thing with it, where instead of having something where it's centralized government or something that's set up maybe by the people or for the people or something, you just have this thing that's a private company that really doesn't give a shit about anybody or anything other than making money.
Yeah, and they have to make these decisions on a mass scale as well. So like they make a high level manifesto of what they believe should be said and what shouldn't be said. And then they leave it in the hands of machines because it's the only way that it's possible, at least on the scale that it's at. I mean, the only marvel of that is the joke I made earlier with Wikipedia, that they actually do human moderate pretty much everything, if not everything. But the stat that pops out to me is Facebook has to make 300,000 moderation decisions every minute of every day, which is just, how do you do that in any way that is not going to be restrictive? And then hit me with a ban because it's at a certain number on their ratio.
It will be, yeah. And there can't be any like real sort of nuance behind it or any way to sort of tell, oh yeah, he was just joking there.
So for me, it's a crazy topic. And I feel like there's so much weight to what it causes in terms of society and humanity. And I'm not even sure how we answer it.
No, but it's odd how some people get cancelled and some people don't. It's like, okay, so for example, say like Justin Trudeau, there's photos that came out of him in blackface in like a party years ago. It got like thrown around social media, but he didn't get like banned for it, or like not a lot really happened. What do you think would happen if the same thing was true of like Elon Musk or Donald Trump or something like that?
Oh, it would be crazy. Yeah, it would blow up and be crazy because the media know that there's a point of drama and contention. to use there. And it's weird because, again, like we mentioned, I think off camera beforehand, about some of these biases and opinions we just have because of reasons we don't truly understand. Like when I think of Trudeau, I don't really know much about him, but I have a dislike. I feel a disdain for him as a human and as a leader. Now, I know he's probably corrupt and I've heard other bits and bobs, but which politician isn't? But for some reason, I just have this disdain for people like him and Macron and these kind of leaders. And I don't know what it is. It could even be that there's a deeper psychology at play in the way that people like Trump and Farage position themselves. Because in a lot of ways, they're just as corrupt, well, not even corrupt, but just as deliberate with the way they position themselves as the other guys are. But maybe because it feels... Yeah, for me, I wonder if it's because it feels like they're more honest. So even if what they say is extreme, you kind of relate to them more because you know that they're being authentic. Yeah, like you wonder if Keir Starmer came out and said, listen, all of these people that are racist and right-wing and at that level have got the lowest IQs. And as us, as people with higher IQs, we need to do something to solve this problem because these idiots, right, are trying to take over and control things in their own way. And we know that Britain is built on being a multicultural nation. We know that the problems we have in our government are because we've underfunded things, and it's not related to having a multicultural society because that's what makes Britain great. And we're going to fight this misinformation, but be honest that it's because the government screwed everything up and there's not enough funding for things. You'd suddenly go, do you know what? Fair play. I agree with that. And you'd have more respect for that person. And they're like, whereas they don't take a stand for what is the general British person who isn't a racist, who isn't a bigot.
And that saying of you can't please all the people all the time is, because it's impossible to, but he's kind of trying to, and just sort of like appease everybody at the same time.
Yeah, and I think no matter the politician and their beliefs, the ones that try and appease people less or try and please people less are just more relatable to. And I think that where we're at right now, it's mostly right-wing people that are doing that. And an example I'll give would be Bernie Sanders, for example, right? Bernie Sanders in America, he's a cool dude. He's as left as it gets, but he tells it how it is.
Yeah, but then at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, I'm socialist, I'm this, and this. Turns out he got loads of money from like a pharmaceutical company, and I can't remember if it's 3 or 4 houses he owns right now. And it's kind of like, there's a bit of that sort of champagne socialist going on there as well. It's, it's a mixed bag, I guess. But
I think at a base level, they're all like this. There's no politician or no leader or no that isn't in some way like this. So that just comes with the territory. But what I mean is the psychology behind why we think, this guy's all right, to he's just another fake like bullshitter. Because Trump is corrupt as they come. Of course he is. But there's just something lovable about him. He's got like this lovable rogueness, doesn't give a shit. And it's because he's real and he's human, or at least it feels like he is.
And people really want to believe in his message. It's like that thing, make America great again. It's like most people remember previous times when that country was better, when life was a lot easier, when there was more opportunity, and they're really like patriotic people, and they're like, hell yeah, this guy's got my vote. Whereas like compared to the people on the other side, the Bidens or the Harrises or whatever, it just seemed like there's nothing genuine whatsoever, and at least with Trump, it seems like there is. Or that thing when someone tried to assassinate him, he gets up and just starts putting his fist in the air and shouting, fight. And everyone's like, okay.
Yeah, right. It's flying in the face of the beige that is everywhere else. And it's like, we're going to say this while we're doing this. And I think that, and also, even with like the tariffs, and I don't want to go down this route because we really will jump off, and we are getting close to being out of time for this week's episode. But he climbed down on his tariffs when he saw that it wasn't working the way that he thought it was, and then he was more strategic about it. And some people will go, oh, well, see, look, he didn't know what he was doing. It's like, well, no, he's willing to try something different, see it doesn't work, and then change.
And also, I think with some of that, he will have thought that through. There will have been some tactics to it. And I think some of it kind of stamps authority. And also, it's that kind of, you never know what he's going to do next. When someone's really unpredictable, they're the worst kind of person to be arguing or fighting with.
So let me just wrap things up a little bit here for today. So obviously free speech has never been absolute, but our digital landscape has raised the stakes somewhat, and the complexity of these debates is never going to get any easier. But perhaps the path forward isn't about winning arguments, but creating systems and norms where people know what to say, what to do, but also to just not go and take silly actions as a result of something they read on Facebook. And it's back to that thing we said, right? When you're in primary school and your teacher says, if John jumps off a cliff, would you do it too? Just keep that in mind. Don't go and do stupid shit just because you see a load of other people doing it. And bring back that empathy that we should have for each other as humans. And I think that's the key to it all. In a world where attention has become currency and outrage the fastest path to visibility, the most radical act we can take is maybe just slowing down a little bit and recognizing that being able to speak on different subjects across different experiences is really what needs to be done for us to progress. Next week on Temporally Scripted, we're going to be tackling the attention economy and how your focus has become a commodity. We're going to explore how these tech companies, the same ones we talked about this week, engineered the most sophisticated attention capture system in human history, even more sophisticated than watching people get hung for stealing bread. And we'll examine the psychological toll of constant distraction and share our practical strategies for reclaiming your most precious cognitive resource. So where do you stand on free expression and responsible speech? And have you ever witnessed or experienced cancel culture firsthand? Join our conversation on X or check out our website for where we're still updating from 6 weeks ago, but by now I'm sure we've probably caught up. Until next time, Adam, thank you very much.
Thank you. See you next time, folks, and don't get cancelled.